And welcome back to Gav Goes In. Obviously, a bit of a different surroundings today, Big up to Lumi each and every time. Um, yeah, listen, been a bit of a mad morning for me today, Was meant to be going into work and, obviously didn't happen in the end. So yeah, obviously I've just happened to come elsewhere. So yeah, as I said, bit of a different surrounding, but it is what it is. But big up to yourselves for coming on. So Lumi says, I want to see, wait, let me see the previous one she said. So this game needs to be high intensity, needs to take advantage of Chelsea playing a difficult game with only 2 days rest / preparation. To be honest with you, I mean, you would expect that. You would expect that, but I think personally, I'm going to stick with the 2-0 result for Chelsea. I don't see Man United getting much from this game. I think it's going to be a bit of a struggle as well. And we will get into it. But big up, Lumi. I want to see lots of energy in the pressing and players going into every 50-50 aggressively. Listen, we're going to have to hope so. But do I believe United get anything from this game? I have to be honest. I don't see it. But yeah, it's one of them things. But listen, Ruben Amorim, for me, a defining game for Ruben Amorim. I think personally, Amorim needs to. For me, I think he needs a win. I don't even think a draw does any favors for Amorim. We've quite clearly heard from Jim Ratcliffe saying that, that he needs to. He's got 3 games to keep his job. And this is why, for me, this is the penultimate game. For Ruben Amorim to at least survive. I think that's all he's doing right now. Sorry, guys, camera just messing up again. I think that's literally all he's doing, and that's surviving. I think I just don't see Amorim lasting any longer. I think someone today earlier said to me, they can see Amorim lasting to the end of the season. I don't see that. I think definitely the Sunderland game is where I think he could be. He could go. I think in terms of the game tomorrow, it's a massive game for Amorim. It's a key game because I believe if he doesn't pick up a win, I think the Brentford game is a must win anyway. But I think he's under even more pressure to beat Brentford if he doesn't beat Chelsea tomorrow. I think if he draws against Chelsea, I think they might be looking at giving him a bit more time. But then that will mean he's got to beat Brentford and Sunderland. I think if he loses to Chelsea, I don't see them sacking him. But I definitely think the Brentford game, that and Sunderland could be his last, And again, losing to Chelsea and then not beating Brentford, I think that could be the end, and rightfully so. So yeah, as I said, I think it's a massive game for Ruben Amorim. You guys have heard my thoughts on Amorim already. I don't rate this manager. I think he's the worst manager Man United have had. And I think definitely, it's coming down to it, man, that this manager just needs to be moved on, definitely. Big up to Barbara Joseph each and every time. Big up to Mr. Jonas. Big up, bro. We're going to do our stream Monday, definitely. I haven't forgotten. So, yeah, we're going to do our stream on Monday. Obviously, your team scraping victories as well, just pissing man off, scraping victory after victory. And obviously, you guys got the Merseyside derby as well. So, come on, Everton. Come on, Everton. Nah, big up, bro. Big up for coming through, man. So, yeah, guys, as I said, Ruben Amorim, penultimate game. Scott Bramwell said he has 3 games to change things around, in my opinion. Big up to Scott for coming through. Yeah, Scott, listen, I agree, man. I think definitely these 3 games, and I think this is going to be the penultimate game, as I said. In the title, penultimate game for Amorim, because I think this game is going to set him up to see what he does in the next couple of games. Because I definitely believe if he doesn't get a win against Chelsea, and he's still here, all the pressure is going to be on the Brentford game. And I can see them, if he does make it to Brentford, if he doesn't win that game, I think that's when they're going to pull the plug. And I think rightfully so as well. Big up to Mike Willie, 46 as 45 as well. Big up, man, for coming on. So yeah, this Chelsea game, I'm looking forward to it tomorrow. You know, 5:30 kickoff. Obviously, we're going to go through the lineups for both teams as well. But as I said, I think for so many reasons, this is the penultimate game for Ruben Amorim. I'll go as far and say, you know, this is Amorim's biggest. This is his biggest match for me. His biggest game in charge for United. Biggest game. Because I think, you know, as Mike has said, the writing's on the wall. It's a matter of time. I agree. And I think this is when we're going to see Ineos act on Ruben Amorim. And it starts with this game tomorrow. Scott says, if we sack him, I don't want Southgate. Listen, this Southgate talk is making me laugh. Man United are not going to hire Gareth Southgate. You know, they're not going to hire Gareth Southgate. I mean, I've heard talk about, you know, they were looking at, I think Sir Jim was interested in Southgate. Southgate is not a possibility. You know, I don't think fans need to be getting, you know, depressed about getting Southgate. That's not going to happen. You know, it's definitely not going to happen. And who do we replace him with? Listen, I've said this to you guys previously. Just go and get me a manager that wants to play attacking football and be on the front foot. You know, that's not too much to ask. You know, I just want to see Man United, you know, in a formation that I'm more familiar with watching and the best players playing. It's not too much to ask. I think for too long, we've been watching Man United and it's just been the worst players on the pitch at all times. You know, you got a Bruno Fernandes that plays every minute of every game. So again, there's not too much to ask from, man. You know, I want Zidane, I want Xavi, Iraola, Glasner. Go and get me a manager like that. You know, a manager that wants to play front foot attacking football and play the best players in their position and stop this nonsense that Ruben Amorim's been doing. It's not too much to ask for, you know what I mean? So that's all it is. Big up to Daniela as well for coming through. Big up to Black Mojo King. Says, why does it have to get to this? What if he wins, then he should have been sacked a long time ago. Why are boards so incompetent? Yeah, big up to Black Mojo, man. I agree. I agree, Black Mojo. I think what it is, you know, Ineos have shown, you know, even with when they kept Eric Ten Hag in place, you know, they showed that, you know, they were incapable of making the right decision, you know, and, you know, I think it's one of them things where you're thinking, are they actually going to learn from their mistakes? Obviously, quite clearly they haven't, you know, but I'm more interested in, with Ineos, these next 3 games now, because I said at the start of the season, I said, you know, I'm going to give Amorim 5 games to see what's going on, you know. When everyone was getting excited in pre-season, I didn't see much in pre-season. I saw more of the same old shit. I just saw new players like Cunha, like Mbuemo coming in, and there wasn't much difference. So I think all I can say now with Ineos is that, you know, Sir Jim said 3 games, and that's what we got to work with. And this game tomorrow is massive for Ruben Amorim. And as I said, you know, I don't even think a draw does him any favours. I think a win is a must. A win's a must. And the win will give him a cushion going into the Brentford game. Because although I don't think Amorim gets sacked if he does get beat by Chelsea, I think that loss against Chelsea will mean he has to beat Brentford. Has to win Brentford. I think the draw, you know, I think he might be a bit more confident that if he doesn't beat Brentford, you know, he might get another game against Sunderland. But I believe a loss against Chelsea, he has to beat Brentford. And if he doesn't beat Brentford, I think he's gone. So that's where I'm looking at, the 3 games for there. But Black Mojo, as I said, man, we know obviously Ineos are not getting off scot-free, really. You know, I think the infrastructure that they've built, the players they've brought in under their tenure, you know, the players they've got rid of as well. I think that is positive. But in terms of this manager, yeah, listen, he has to go for me. He has to. Listen, yeah, I heard that Sir Jim was at the Carrington yesterday. I heard about that. Yeah, listen, if he's going to Carrington, I think he's trying to put the pressure on Amorim. And I do think Ineos are going to sack him. They are going to sack him. As I said, I think it's a matter of time before he does go. And, you know, as I said, someone said to me today that they reckon Amorim gets to the end of the season, which ain't going to happen. I'm fairly confident of that. I think these next 3 games is going to be Amorim's judgment day, or his penultimate game, as the title explains. So, yeah, I'm fairly confident of that. KB says changing a manager won't change anything. Again, I highly disagree. You know, and I can only imagine, KB, that you're getting this from other channels, but you're not going to get that nonsense here. What I will tell you, KB, is any person saying a manager won't change anything is actually lying to you. Because I'll tell you this now for free, yeah? You can bring in any manager that wants to play a 4-2-3-1 and play players in their right positions. You will get better performances. That's a fact. I think any person saying a manager won't change anything is a complete liar. Because that's not true. These players, I'm not saying these players are absolute world beaters, you know. We have some very, very good players. But there's no one that's going to tell me that a new manager coming in is not going to change the fortunes of this team. The facts are, Ruben Amorim has got 8 wins in 8 months as manager of Manchester United in the Premier League. He should be sacked for that alone. You know, regardless if people think that these players are not good enough, etc. A manager at Manchester United having 8 wins in 8 months is an absolute joke, yeah? And again, guys, I'm going to mention this again as well, yeah? I'm going to tell you why this system is flawed, and it has nothing to do with the players, yeah? This 3-4-2-1 system that Amorim plays, again, I heard yesterday that at Sporting Lisbon, you know, they outperformed their XG by 24 or 25 goals, you know? And the answer to that is, guys, yeah, is obviously Portugal is a weaker league, you know, and Sporting Lisbon are one of the top teams in that league. So if you're outperforming your XG by about 24 or 25 goals, what that tells you really is that this system's flawed. Because if they were outperforming their XG by about, let's say, 4 or 5 goals, you would say, you know what? The system's actually proof that it does work. And it's shown that they actually outperform their goals by 4 or 5. When you're outperforming your goals, your expected goals by about 24 or 25 goals, what that tells you is that it was a freak season. You had a striker in Victor Gyökeres who was very clinical. You know, I think he got about 40 goals or something like that. And you had a team that performed above their capabilities, you would say. Because to outperform your XG by 24 or 25 goals is not sustainable. You know, I've never heard that happen ever. So that was a freak season. And that will tell you that the system that Amorim employs is not conclusive to getting goals from your team. So just based on what Man United have done since Amorim's come in, and as you guys can see, as you guys can see as well, yeah, that as you guys can see as well, that there is that this system is not getting many goals out of your front line. And Man United is proof of that. So again, this 3-4-2-1 is just not working. You know, inverted fullbacks. Brian Mbuemo's a winger playing as a 10. Ahmad's a 10 playing as a wing back. You know, shoehorning Bruno Fernandes into this team. People thinking Joshua Zirkzee is not a 9. There's so many problems with this lineup, and that's proof that a team playing in a weaker league outperformed their XG by 24 or 25 goals. That's unheard of. So again, that's just proof that this system is just not working, you know. Big up to Scott says, do you think we should have got the PSG manager when he was free? Listen, we should have kept Louis van Gaal before he got sacked. Luis Enrique is a top manager. Again, just bring me a manager that wants to play front foot attacking football. And most importantly, play the best players. You know, I was on Flawless's channel the other day on Sarcasm City TV. Big up to Flawless, yeah? I was on his channel the other day, and the first thing I said, you know, I was asked the question, what do I think of Ruben Amorim? The first thing I said was, how I can gauge from any manager in how they're going to do at my club is the players that they favour. The fact that he favours Bruno Fernandes, Mason Mount, Rasmus Højlund when he was here, even Garnacho when he was originally here, that's when the manager lost me. Because if you're a manager that's favouring those type of players, it usually means that, you know, you're not really going to be doing anything, really. Because for too long, Man United have been too fixated on athletes over footballers. That's been polluted with this team. So as soon as I see Amorim doing that, it's the same with Ten Hag. I thought Ten Hag coming from, you know, from Ajax, I at least thought he was going to play the best players. You know, he just played runners. You know, he played players that were high energy, high pressing kind of players, not the footballers. So that's where Ten Hag lost me, and that's where Amorim lost me. So again, when we're saying should we have got the PSG manager, the first thing a Luis Enrique is going to identify is who his best players are. And the best players will be would obviously be your most technical players, i.e. Amad Diallo, Joshua Zirkzee, you know, Cunha, Kobbie Mainoo. Them four players for sure in the attacking areas should be in the team at all times. And at least you would say, what, 2, maybe 3 don't start all the time for Man United, which is the problem, you know. Big up to Eddie Chill says, as a Chelsea fan, I'm pretty sure United are not losing this game. LOL. Again, you're getting people just bantering us. You know what I mean? This is what it's come to. Big up to Eddie, man. So, Eddie, listen, I think Chelsea are going to win the game 2-0. I said that the other day. I just think their midfield is going to be too strong. You know, again, we're going to go through both teams lining up. But the main thing I look at with Ruben Amorim is I just don't know what team he's going to play. I know what players, you know, the majority of the players he's going to pick, but I just don't know if it's going to be the best team that he puts out to do anything, you know. So I'm going to say Chelsea 2-0. I think Chelsea win that game 2-0. I just don't see United winning this game. I think the best United could hope for is a draw, but I don't think United go to Old Trafford and beat Chelsea. And I think the fact that Chelsea have drawn against Brentford and lost to Bayern Munich in their last 2 games, they're gonna want to be they're gonna want to be changing that tomorrow. And as I said, I think definitely tomorrow they don't lose this game. I'm pretty confident of that. Big up to Shaheen Afridi. Guys, come on, there's 32 of you in there and only 6 likes. Smash that like button if you're enjoying the content. And again, if you're new in here, make sure you sub to the channel, guys. Big up. So KB says, bro, we've been changing managers for years. But KB, again, you're new in here, KB, yeah? So this is the this is something that I would always say, yeah? We know, you know, from the Glazers, we know Glazers are a massive problem. We're aware of that. But the problem with the Glazers, yeah, is with these fans, is that if Man United were winning, the Glazers wouldn't be talked about as much as they are, you know. So again, we can't control the Glazers getting out the club because, you know, there's no one that's going to be able to get them out, unfortunately. So let's just park that with the Glazers, you know. The infrastructure that Ineos have built, you know, I'm more in favour. You know, they've put things in place, the new training ground, the new stadium that's going to come, you know, the players that they've let go, the players they've brought in. There have been positives that Ineos have done, you know. But in terms of this manager, we can only control what we're seeing on the pitch. And what we're seeing on the pitch has been nothing short of a disgrace. So for me, when you're saying we can't keep changing managers, we can. Because if you're an owner of a company, KB, and you hire a manager and he's losing you money left, right, and centre, What's your answer to that? Do you just keep him in place because you're saying you can't keep changing managers? Or do you sack his ass because he's losing you money? So again, I don't understand people that are saying we can't keep changing managers. Of course you can. You keep changing managers until you come to the right solution. Because again, if you're running your own business, and again, the manager you've hired is not doing a good job and he's losing you money, your answer isn't to just keep him in place. That makes no sense. So I don't agree. We can't keep changing managers. This manager is taking this club down. As I said, you look at Erik ten Hag, who was in place. Erik ten Hag was an absolute disgrace. Erik ten Hag is doing done a better job than Ruben Amorim. You can't keep your job if you've got 8 wins in 8 months as a Man United manager in the Premier League, regardless if you haven't got your players or not. I don't agree with that. I think that's just excuses made for this manager. So and as Kevin McGee has said, he is out of his depth. He is. And as I said, I truly believe he's going to be gone within the next 3 games. I'm confident of that, because I don't see them beating Chelsea, and then the pressure game is going to be Brentford for me. And I think if he loses to Chelsea and doesn't beat Brentford, I think he's gone. And I think this is where Ineos are looking at it for me as well. Shaheen says, can Arne Slot win a domestic treble? It's going to be very difficult for me, to be honest with you. I know Liverpool are unbeaten, and I think Liverpool have won every game so far, I believe. But I think them winning a treble, that's going to be difficult for me. I think Champions League, they're going to meet tougher tests for me in the Champions League. So yeah, I'll go along and say no. Shaheen says Amorim is obsessed with Bruno. He is. But why are we surprised? This is compatriot, As I said, when I see him play, when I see Amorim come to the club, I fully expected him to be leaning onto Bruno because he's his compatriot. The fact that he plays him every game, he's taking it way beyond than even I could imagine. So he's obsessed with Bruno. He is, and it's a massive problem for the club. But guys, we're going to move on to the lineups. I'm going to give you my lineup, what I would play against Chelsea, and we're going to go through the lineup that I think Amorim's going to play. And guys, keep your questions and comments coming. I will definitely get back to your comments and your questions once I've finished discussing what I'm saying. We've got 43 of you in there, only 7 likes. Come on, smash the like button and sub to the channel. Big up. So, who do I think he's going to play in goal? This might surprise people, but I think he's going to keep Bain there in goal. I think he keeps Bain there. I think a lot of people think that Senne Lamens is gonna play. I think he keeps Bain there in goal because, again, it's against Chelsea. It's a pressure game, and I think someone like Lamens that has no experience in the league, I don't think Ruben Amorim is gonna risk playing Lamens. And let's not forget as well, Ruben Amorim didn't want Lamens either. He wanted Martinez. So that's even more reason for him to not pick Lamens. So I think he's going to play Bain there in goal. Who would I play? I'd probably play Bain there. I'll probably play Bain there in goal. And I think because I think Chelsea will win the game, I think it'll be good for Lamens to come in. And under a fresh manager, in my opinion. So I wouldn't mind Bain there playing every game until this manager's sacked, and then you bring Lamens in under a new manager. That's what I would prefer, But I think Bain there plays, and I think Amorim does play him. I think the back three, is going to be interesting because the fact that he took off Lenny Yoro, and Yoro wasn't injured, I wonder if he plays. And again, if he does this will be criminal. But I wonder if he plays Maguire, Shaw, and the Ligt as a back three. So Maguire in the middle, Shaw on the left, and then the Ligt right side. If he does that, I think that's the manager conceding that, yeah, it's over. I think Euro. I think Euro will play, but I mean you can't put it past Amorim that him not playing Maguire in this game. I think if he plays Maguire, if he plays Maguire, I think that's a disgrace, you know. But me personally, I'd play Euro, the Ligt, and I'd play Mazraoui in this system, you know. I'd play Mazraoui left side. I'd play the Ligt, and I'd play Lenny Yoro. The wing backs for me, Dorgu, and even though I can't stand seeing Ahmad as a wing back, I play Ahmad and Dorgu. The midfield, which is going to be interesting. For me, Casemiro has to come back into it, and I'd play Casemiro and I'd play Casemiro and I would play Ugarte for the insurance. You know, again, I don't rate Ugarte, but I would play Ugarte and Casemiro, and then the 2 10s. I don't think Cunha. I think Cunha might still be injured, by the way. I think Cunha, Mount, and Dallo might still be out. And if that's the case, he has to play Xerxes, even though Xerxes is a 9 for me, but play Xerxes, Mbuemo, and Sesko from the start. You know, I would definitely do that if the likes of Cunha's not ready to play. You know, but again, this system, I can't stand it really because it means we've got to see Ahmad at wing back. But this manager's not going to change his system. He's already said that. And if that's the case, just play the best that's available. You know, I wouldn't mind seeing Kobe as a left 10 and seeing Xerxes as the 9 or Xerxes as the 10, Sesko as the 9. You know, I don't really want to see Kobe against Caicedo and whoever plays in there. We'll get to Chelsea's team in a minute. Because I don't think Kobe, as I keep saying, is great in this system, in this 3-4-2-1. He's more adept for me playing higher up the pitch. But again, Kobe needs to play for me. So, you know, whether Sesko plays through the middle, you know what? I'll play Sesko through the middle, Kobe as a left 10, and Mbuemo as a right 10, and then we have to see Ahmad at wing back, unfortunately. You know, or if he plays Sesko as a 9, Xerxes a 10. You know, if he wants to play Casemiro and Kobe. But one thing's for certain, the team that I've just told you guys he's not going to do. You know, I think he plays. I think Luke Shaw might start again. You know, I don't know why Aiden Heaven's not getting game time, but I think he plays Luke Shaw, left side centre back. I don't know why, but I've got a feeling he's going to play Harry Maguire. I've just got a feeling he plays Harry Maguire and then drops Euro to the bench. I'm not sure. I don't know why, but I think he's going to do that. So I think he plays Luke Shaw, Maguire, De Ligt. I think he plays Mazraoui. I think he plays Mazraoui and Dorgu. I think he might do. Mbuemo, Ahmad, Bruno, Casemiro, I think he plays, and then Sesko through the middle. I think that's what he might do. But guys, again, the reason why, and I think I touched on this before, yeah, he cannot play Ahmad as a 10 with Mbuemo, and I'll tell you why. Even though Ahmad is a 10, you know, and I want to see Ahmad play as a 10 in a 4-2-3-1. What people need to realize, yeah, is that if he's going to play Mbuemo and Ahmad as 2 number 10s, there's a problem there. Because the problem that Sesko had against Man City is the fact you've got 2 number 10s that are both left-footed. Now, when you've got Bryan Mbuemo, who's actually a winger, Bryan Mbuemo's natural game, he wants to drift out wide. So you're going to have someone like Mbuemo drifting out wide, vacating the space in the middle of the park, yeah? Then when you've got Ahmad playing as a left 10, Ahmad's left-footed. So Ahmad's naturally going to drift to the left-hand side, which means you've got him and Dorgu occupying the same kind of spaces, which means you've got Sesko really in there by himself. if you've got only Bruno and Utd that was in the Man City game. So this is a problem. Ahmad's a 10, but you can't play Ahmad and Mbuemo as 2 10s because they're both left-footed. One's a winger that wants to go out wide, and if one's playing on that left-hand side, he's naturally going to go wide anyway because he's left-footed, you know? And these are the things that I think people are missing. So, and this is even more the reason why I want to see the 4-2-3-1, because this 4-2-3-1 would allow Ahmad to play in the 10, and it would allow Mbuemo to play in his natural position as a winger, you know? But again, man, it's crazy because we just don't know what this manager's going to do. But that's the team that I will play. So I'll play Bayinde, Yoro, Ligt, Mazraoui, Ahmad and Dorgu, Casemiro. You know, I'm going to say Casemiro and Kobbie Mainoo I'd play in the midfield too. Then I'd play Mbuemo, Xerxes, Sesko. That's how I would go. That's how I would go. You know? Yeah, that's the team I'll go with. That's the team that I will go with. Chelsea's team, I mean, obviously they made a lot of changes for the well, let's say a lot of changes. They made a few changes for the Bayern Munich game in comparison to the game against Brentford. But I think Chelsea, again, their teams, I think Reece James, I'm not sure if Reece James starts. I think Reece James should start, but I think Maresca is managing Reece James's minutes. So I think he's going to play the back four. You know, I think he plays Cucurella left back. I think right back might be Malo Gusto. And I think the reason he plays Malo Gusto, I think because of Malo Gusto's energy on that side of the pitch. So I can see him playing Malo Gusto right back, Cucurella left back. I think Chalobah and Tosin, I don't know, Fofana's on the bench, wasn't he? Do you know, I think Fofana might come back in. Fofana might play centre-back with maybe Chalobah. Because I know Fofana didn't start against Bayern Munich. So he might come back into it. Which means I think he might play Reece James next to Caicedo as a midfield 2. And then probably play Enzo Fernandez further forward. Which means Cole Palmer, for me, will start on the right-hand side with João Pedro in the middle. And then on the left, Pedro Neto. I think he might do that, yeah. I think he might go with the three of Enzo, Reece James and Caicedo. Cole Palmer, Neto and João Pedro. I think that's the way Chelsea might start, personally, you know. I think Esteval was on the bench. I don't know if Esteval starts this game. I think the only way Esteval starts this game is if they play Cole Palmer in the 10. And that means they're going to play Enzo and Caicedo as a midfield 2. And that means Esteval might play on the right and Neto on the left. That's the only way I can see it happening. But I think they'll go 3 in midfield, in my opinion. I think Reece James comes in. I think Reece James plays, but plays in midfield, which means that Gusto will play right back, you know. But I think whatever team Chelsea put out, I think they do win the game. I think the first goal will be key. I think if Chelsea get the first goal, I think it's game over for United. You know, if they get an early goal, I just don't see United coming back into it. And again, we have to think about it as well. These players, there's been murmurs about these players unhappy with the system. You know, obviously Bruno Fernandes has apparently come out and said he's not happy as well. So these things might creep into players' minds. So again, I think the first goal will be key. And I think if Chelsea get the first goal, I can see them winning the game 2-0. You know, and then, as I said, panic stations for Ruben Amorim, because the Brentford game, if he does keep his job, I think it'll be game over for him. You know, so that's how I can see it panning out anyway. Right, guys, I'm going through some of your questions. Okay, make sure you smash the like button, guys, and you sub to the channel. So Fremton Whipboy says, stay with Ruben. The win is gonna come. I doubt that very much. So big up to Awad, says Kobbie Mainoo don't even want to be at United right now. Yeah, he doesn't. He doesn't. You can clearly tell that. You know, Kobbie, and the thing is with Kobbie is disillusioned with life at United, you know. Let's not forget, Kobbie Mainoo coming onto the scene when under Ruben Amorim, Cobby was looking like, you know, going to be in this United lineup for years to come. You know, obviously making his England debut as well. You know, it looking like for club and country, Cobby Manu was going to be the next best midfielder coming through. I think right now it's clear to say that Cobby Manu has regressed. And the thing is, it's not through his own doing. It's because, you know, this manager is actually killing his progression with this system, and the fact that he's not playing him regularly as well. So yeah, you can tell Cobby doesn't really like. He wants to be at the club, but he's disillusioned with what's going on. And as I said to you guys before, this manager's clearly lied to us, saying that Cobby is battling with Bruno for a place. You know, the manager just makes these stuff up. He's not battling with Bruno for a place. The manager's going to play Bruno regardless, you know, and this is the problem. So, yeah, listen, I do believe under a new manager, Cobby does find his way back into this lineup. He does, because he's got a lot of talent, and he's a lot better than what he's showing. But under this manager, he's definitely killing him, you know, definitely killing him. So, yeah, big up to Ramo. I agree. I don't think... people think Lamens is going to start tomorrow. I don't think Lamens starts tomorrow. I think he plays by in there, because the manager didn't want Lamens. He wanted Martinez. So this could be a sign of defiance. And we already know that Ruben Amorim is a defiant guy, you know. So I think this could be a sign of defiance to not bring in the new keeper and play by in there. Because I genuinely think Amorim doesn't really care now. I think Amorim is wanting the club to sack him, because he knows he gets a massive payout. So he's going to do things his own way. And as I said, he's on borrowed time. You know, it's a matter of time before he goes for me, you know. Let's say United won their next 3 games and Jim says you have another 3 games and we win them. Would your opinion of him getting sacked change? Great question, Scott. And I'm glad you've asked this question, yeah. I couldn't give a damn if Amorim wins the next 3 games. The reality is he has to go, because I think people need to look at the bigger picture. You know, just because a manager if a manager wins 3 games in a row, which again he's not going to do in my opinion, I look at the bigger picture, and the bigger picture is this system ultimately is not going to work for the majority of Man United's best players. So I don't think if he wins the next 3 games, he should be given another 3. You know, if you're doing your due diligence on this manager, is what Ineos should be doing. They should be looking at the bigger picture, thinking, you know, doesn't matter really what he does, let's just make a change. And I think they are definitely talking to other managers, you know, but I think they want to be seen as giving him enough chances, enough rope to hang himself in a sense. But I don't believe if he wins his next 3 games, he should be given any time. As I said, when you've got a win percentage of 23.5%, which might be slightly higher now, I'm not too sure, I don't think you should be given any kind of grace. You know, there's so many things wrong this manager has done. They should just be thinking of the change anyway. And I do believe that is going to happen, you know. So, yeah, to answer your question, man, I don't think it should change. I think Ineos have given him 3 games. Because I think all Ineos want to see is, are they in touching distance of Champions League places, which is what Sir Jim has said, yeah? I think personally, Sir Jim knows that Ruben Amorim is not going to get United within touching distance of Champions League places. So he's kind of just letting him hang himself, really, in a sense. So, as I said, I do believe the changes will be coming. But yeah, I don't believe he wins them 3 games, and they need to just act anyway, regardless, you know. So Holly Sultana Tamina says 4-4-2. Nah, I don't want to see the 4-4-2 personally. 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3 for me. And big up to Nafect Mushroom says, until you get Ruben on a plane, you ain't going nowhere. I agree. He's definitely taking his club backwards. You know, I'd argue anyone to tell me otherwise, because as I said, there's been so many problems that he's been, you know, and the thing is with Amorim, he's brought all this on himself. You know, he's brought all this on himself. So really, he's got no one to really blame. You know, people can talk about he hasn't got his players, etc. A sign of any good coach is when you come in, you know, you improve the players that you have already. Because why else would you bring him in? You know, people that say he needs his own players, you're just making excuses. Because first and foremost, he was brought into the club because he was supposedly meant to be a very good coach. And the reality is, he ain't coaching anything. That's the reality. So, yeah, I agree, man. He definitely needs to go. He definitely needs to go. Big up to Eddie text John. Big up to Mike. Mike says, if he puts Ahmad on left 10 again, then he should definitely get sacked. Again, big up to Mike. I think the thing is, Mike, yeah, I think a lot of people probably not even switched onto this, yeah. But the fact that he plays Ahmad and Mbuemo as both 10s, you know, as I said previously, I want to see Ahmad playing the 10, but just not in this system, yeah. But to think that he's playing Ahmad and Mbuemo as 2 10s is actually alarming, as to he doesn't actually realise what he's doing. Because just by knowing football, if you've got 2 left-footed number 10s in this system, and you've got one that's not even a number 10 anyway, you're vacating the centre spaces. Because as I said before, you've got Mbuemo that is a winger and wants to be out wide anyway. And then you've got Ahmad, who's left-footed, playing as a left 10, that is naturally going to drift onto his strongest foot, which is the left-hand side. Which means that middle of the park is going to be vacated. You know, and that's not even hard to work out. That's just knowing your players. And the fact that he's incapable of actually realising that is a bigger problem than what's being made out. Because I don't think many people might look at the fact that Ahmad's playing the 10 and Mbuemo, but not actually clocking that it's not going to work. You know, and it's not even like a surprise it's not working. You're playing 2 left footers in this system. It's just not going to work. You know what I mean? So it's crazy. Now that you mentioned both of them being left footed, this kind of shows how clueless this manager is in profiling his players. Yeah, big up to Mike, man, 100%. You know, and that's not even hard to work out, Mike. You know, just watch the game against Man City, yeah? The amount of times that, you know, Ahmad was trying his best to get into the 10s, yeah? In a 10 position. But Ahmad's naturally left-footed and he's naturally going to drift out to the left-hand side. And then Mbuemo's going to stick on the right because he's a winger. And again, I felt sorry for Cesco in that sense because Cesco was playing there more or less just on his own in that attacking third. You know, and that's because of the way Amorim set up the team and who he chose to play in them positions, which is criminal, really. Big up to Elvis. Yeah, listen, Kobe Mino's not going anywhere. He's not. Like, he's not going anywhere. Kobe Mino's going to outlast Amorim. I'm pretty confident of that. Because, as I said, Amorim, for me, doesn't make it past these 3 games. And if he does, I think question marks need to be asked of Ineos. 100%. But for me, I don't see him making it past these 3 games because, you know, the signal was there against Burnley. You know, when you're scraping 3-2 against Burnley, and let's face it, that wasn't a penalty. Ahmad was definitely fouled, but not inside the box. When you're scraping it against Burnley, yeah, that should tell you everything. A promoted team is giving you problems at home, you know. And I remember a lot of fans were saying, look how well United played against Arsenal. Was that more of Arsenal just playing shit or United playing well? Because from what I saw, I didn't see United play well. I just thought United played better than Arsenal. But again, United still lost the game. And then people were still championing the fact that United lost the game but played well. I mean, the standards at this club are at an all-time low. And again, a lot of fans don't uphold the standards, unfortunately. So it's crazy. Mbuemo and Ahmad should just interchange throughout the game. Big up to an affected mushroom. I think what it is, yeah, as I've said before, an affected mushroom, yeah, if we're actually being serious in this system, yeah, Mbuemo's the one that should be playing wing back, because the closest position to a winger is wing back, and Ahmad's a 10. So again, Amorim's got both of them players in the wrong way round. But the answer to all this is just play both players in their strongest positions, and that is the only way that's going to happen is through a 4-2-3-1, or if you want to interchange both players in a 4-3-3 as wingers. So again, this system is killing both players, but people don't want to accept it or don't actually realize this. So I understand the interchanging, but they shouldn't be interchanging in the first place, because this system shouldn't be where these two players are figuring. They're both playing in the wrong positions. This is the issue. Big up to Rash the Bandit, says, as a Liverpool fan, the manager doing really good. Keeps us happy. Yeah, listen. Yeah, why wouldn't you be crashing it on us, Rash? Because listen, man, the longer that Amorim's here, the Man United are going to keep sinking, you know. And again, as a Liverpool fan, you know what I mean, you guys are going to be happy, man, and I can't really blame you, because yeah, this manager's just yeah, it's at an all-time low. When he lost to Grimsby, and I know people will say, you know, the players should have just turned up against Grimsby. The fact that he chose to turn up at Grimsby playing 5 at the back, regardless of the players showing up or whatever, you don't play 5 at the back against Grimsby, because that sets off, for me, a negative start to the game, you know. And his reluctance to change anything, you know, ultimately is what was his undoing. Because I don't care, yeah. I don't rate Mason Mount, yeah. But the fact that he brought Mason Mount on as a left wing back, Mason Mount should have been talking to him after the game, saying to him, what the hell are you playing at? Because that was inexcusable to go and do that, you know. So yeah, this manager has nowhere to hide, man. Nowhere to hide for me. Big up to Ennis there. Guys, come on, smash the like, sub to the channel. 33 of you watching and only 12 likes, guys. Come on, smash the like. Let's at least try and hit 20 likes. So Dre2K says they need a legit 9. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think when Man United change this formation, change the system, I think you'll find out, change the manager, I think you're going to find out that the need for a number 9 isn't really there, you know. I think people need to realise, yeah, Man United don't need a 9 that's going to score them 30 to 40 goals, you know. You've got anomalies like Erling Haaland, you know. Erling Haaland is an anomaly. You're not going to get a striker like that. You know, a striker like him comes around, you know, maybe once every 10 years, if that, yeah? So you're not going to get a number 9 like that. You're not going to get a number 9 like Harry Kane that can drop deep, you know, and link the play and get goals, you know? These players are a dying breed. Man United have got a number 9 in Joshua Zirkzee that some fans actually think's a 10. And again, this just shows that a lot of fans don't really know what they're talking about, because you cannot compare all strikers the same. I've said this plenty of times. You get number 9 strikers that play on the shoulder. You get number 9 strikers that drop deep and link the play. You know, you get target man strikers. You know, you get fox in the box kind of strikers. There's all different types of strikers. Joshua Zirkzee is a striker, but a false 9. You know, he's a number 9 that has number 10 qualities. So if you just change this system and you've got the wide forwards in Cunha and Mbuemo, you will find quickly that you're getting goals from the wide areas, and Joshua Zirkzee will chip in and contribute to that front line. So when people are saying United need a legit number 9, that's not true. You don't. You don't. All you need is a functioning system that gets the best out of your players. As I said to you guys earlier, when you've got a team that outperform their XG by 24 or 25 goals in the Portuguese league, that should tell you everything. That should tell you that Ruben Amorim'S system is not good, because that was a freak season by Gyökeres and by the team to outperform their XG by that amount. And then him coming to Man United, a difficult, a harder league, you know, you can see why now why United not scoring many goals, because this system's flawed. You know, if you need any other evidence, there's your evidence. So United don't need a legit number 9. They've got Xerxes, they've got Sesko. You know, the system just needs to change, and you'll find out very quick, you know, that you've got a very good team there that can score goals. But this system's very negative, and it's negative because of the way the manager puts players in certain positions. So again, I don't agree that they need a legit number 9. I don't agree. Big up to Chris and Mark. So Dre says, I think they beat United 2-1. Yeah, listen, 2-1. I can see that. I'm going to say 2-0. I'm going to say 2-0. Honestly, Gav, I see us getting cooked, especially in midfield, because Chelsea's midfield is very physical and athletic, especially Caicedo. Yeah, listen, I definitely think Chelsea's midfield is going to have the upper hand. I think Caicedo, for me, is one of the best midfielders in the world, definitely. I mean, guys, anyone see Pedri's performance yesterday for Barcelona? You know, that is what you call truly world-class, him and De Jong. You know, and again, I've mentioned, you know, this was Pedri and De Jong up against probably one of the most intense teams in the Premier League in Newcastle. And them two guys were just bopping him off the park, because you don't need physicality. All you need is a football brain and a great touch. And those two guys were just running the game. You know, and again, when you've got someone like Caicedo that can mix both together as being composed in possession and being very physical and athletic, that's going to be very hard to overcome. And I think if Maresca plays him and Reece James in it tomorrow, which I think he does, I think they dominate that midfield, because you've got Reece James who's composed on the ball and he's strong. Caicedo, we just already mentioned. And then, you know, if you're playing Enzo there as well, he's more box to box. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a problem tomorrow. But again, he's going to play Bruno in there, I think. Well, I know. And I think he plays Ugarte because of Ugarte's legs. But Casemiro didn't start against Man City, so he might change it and play Casemiro. I think personally, Casemiro and Kobe, I wouldn't mind. Even Casemiro and Ugarte, if it's to combat what Chelsea have in there. You know, but if he plays Bruno in there, it's going to be a problem. But again, if he doesn't play Bruno there, he's going to play Bruno in the 10. So again, whatever team he picks, it's not going to be the right team, because he's going to play Bruno Fernandes. So, yeah, listen. Yeah, Amorim is a liar. He told us Kobe is competing, but he's a liar. When he told us that Kobe is competing with Bruno, you know, we all know he's not. We all know that Bruno's going to play regardless. But the fact that he brought on Bruno to play with Kobe against Grimsby Town, you know, he's insulting our intelligence, because he's never going to do that against a Man City or Chelsea. Tomorrow's game, he's never going to play Bruno and Kobe together in the midfield too. He only done that against Grimsby, you know, after saying that Kobe's competing with Bruno. So the guy's just blind-faced, just lying to us. And, you know, people don't want to accept it, unfortunately. But, yeah, it's mad. Ayan says United are a small club. Listen, we're actually getting bantered now, guys. We're getting bantered because this is what this manager has got us looking like, unfortunately. Yeah, listen, he didn't want Sesko. He didn't want Lemens. I look at those two signings in particular, Lemens and Sesko, even though I didn't really want Sesko, but they're actually positive signings in the sense that that means this manager's on borrowed time, because if they would have bought players for the manager, it's easy to say that, you know, he's going to be given more time. The fact that they've disregarded buying players for the manager and bought players for the club, I respect it, because it's showing me that it's a matter of time. You know, it's a matter of time. So, yeah, I don't really have a problem with them buying those players when you think about it, because they shouldn't be buying players for the manager. And this is why I don't think Lemens starts tomorrow. I think Bayinder's in goal, you know. Chrism says, if United have to sack Amorim, it takes a lot of money from United's war chest, which is already empty, and it's only down to Big Jim Cutthroat sacking. That's helped turn around United's fortunes. Chrism, listen, Man United have money, man. I disagree. United have money. They had money. I'm not fussed about United's financials. I think the financials come out the other day. And again, I'm not an expert on the financial side of it. But from what I see of the figures, it's showing me that they've got money to spend. You know, they have money to spend. If you think about the outlay that they've put on Mbuemo and Cunha, to think that we got those two players that are two of the, you know, the best players in the league, you would say, for what, 60 million each, and I think they're not even paying it up front. You know, they've done good business there for me. And yeah, I'm not worried about United. I think United have money. They do have money for me. Gav, 1 point. Right now, honestly, outside the pitch, Ineos have done things right in terms of clearing house and getting a proper structure in place. The only thing that discredits their work is this manager. Yeah, listen, Mike, I couldn't disagree. I couldn't agree more. The only thing is the manager, but I do believe they're gonna act on the manager very soon. So yeah, this is the only blemish for me since they've come in. That and Manuel Ugarte. What they saw in Ugarte, I will never know, you know. But in terms of him and the manager, this is the blemishes that I would say right now. I think everything else I'm pretty happy or satisfied with. So yeah. Gav, did you see Rashford score 2 goals versus Newcastle? I did. So yeah, yesterday, if you haven't checked it out, I done the match reaction to the Barcelona versus Newcastle. And again, I'm not Rashford's biggest fan, but Rashford has moments like that in his game. You know, his header yesterday was very good. The way he directed it into the corner, you know. If you look at the cross didn't have too much power on it either. So he had to put, obviously, his power and direct it into the bottom corner. So that was a great header. His second goal was very good. Very good. The way he manoeuvred the chance as well. Because if you look at it, his first touch was under his foot. And then he had to maneuver the ball into space. And in the strike, I don't think no one saves that. You know, he caught that perfectly. And again, Rashford has that in his game. You know, he wasn't really having a great game, really. You know, he gave Trippier a couple of problems, but I think on the whole, I think it was fairly even. Maybe Trippier was winning that. But again, those two goals secured it for me, you know. Again, Ronald Arroyo and Pau Kabasi at the back there, very good. Again, Ronald Arroyo, for me, he's Liverpool's answer to Virgil van Dijk. I think he's that good. If he stays fit, you know, in terms of what Van Dijk offers with the physicality, you know, Ronald Arroyo has that for me. So he has to stay fit. But Pedri and Frankie de Jong, you know, you've got two of the best midfielders in the world there, you know. The four that I said yesterday, Pedri, de Jong, Caicedo, and Vitinha, they're the four best midfielders in the world right now for me, you know. There are a few others, but those four, yeah, they're the four best for me right now in world football. But yeah, no, Rashford's goals were very good yesterday. Very good. So Richard Hawkins says, look, when Sir Matt was there, there was no systems. He said to play to your strengths, enjoy yourselves and win. Simple. But yeah, listen, I think, and big up to Richard, I think what it is with a lot of managers, they just try to make things too overcomplicated, you know, and Ruben Amorim is just like that. You know, he makes things overcomplicated. This whole inverting fullbacks, wingbacks, I've never seen it. Wingbacks are there for the overlaps, for the overlapping, you know, but he's inverting them. You know, it doesn't make any sense. But as I said, football's been made complicated by idiots, really. That's how I see it. You know, football's not a hard game, really. You know, just the very first thing you have to identify with football as a manager, the key is identifying who your best players are. If you can identify who your best players are, it makes your job a lot easier. And then just put them in the right positions, and then the other players fit around that. At Man United, it's the other way around. He's putting the worst players on the pitch, and the most technical players have to fit around that. And you can see that by the football. It doesn't make any sense, you know. Big up to Arsenal. Omar says, why did Aiden Heaven get dropped? Well, again, it's not that Aiden Heaven got dropped. Aiden Heaven is going to get overlooked because when you've got Luke Shaw, who's on 190, a week, the club have to justify him getting game time. Not to mention, obviously, he's got the experience as well. So that's why he's getting played over Aiden Heaven. But Aiden Heaven, for me, he's going to be a future Man United defender for sure, a regular. I think he's that good. I think he's got all the tools to be very good. But unfortunately, Ruben Amorim's picking experience and wage over Aiden Heaven. That's the problem, So yeah, who knows? Yeah, listen, Nani was a very good player. Very good player. Yeah, listen, Amorim's on his way out, man. It's very clear he is. Um, so Mike says everyone says Sesko is a scrub when that's not true. Right now, you can see he's going through a similar situation as Hoyland with a lack of service. Yeah, listen, I'm not going to hide the fact. And again, a few of you will know anyway. I didn't really want Sesko. That's the truth. I thought if Man United looking at a striker, Premier League proven, you had players that are in the league, Johan Visser, Jean-Philippe Mateta, even Ivan Toney, which would have been more difficult deal to do. I think what was available, definitely one of those three, I know people mentioned Ollie Watkins. I didn't really want Ollie Watkins personally, but Mateta and Visser, I just don't understand why those two weren't under consideration. You think of Mateta, what he's doing at Palace, you think of Visser's relationship with Mbuemo as well. But the positive that I saw is that with Sesko coming in, meaning that Hoyland went out the door, it's made it a better signing for me because there's no way I was going to be happy with having Sesko and Hoyland. So the fact that Hoyland's gone out the door and Sesko's come in, who's better, it's a better signing for me now. From what I've seen of Sesko, I think Sesko will thrive in a different system as well. From what I've seen of him so far, he's actually done well, considering the lack of service and the lack of support he's got. For me, Xerxes should be the main number 9. And Sesko should be competing with him. But under this manager quite clearly doesn't want Sesko. He didn't want Sesko. It's obvious he didn't want him. But I'm happy with him so far, and the fact that Hoyland's gone out and he's come in, it's made it even better for me. I can't lie. So when is enough with Amorim? Says Usman Asgar. Enough was last season. Like, I would have sacked him when they're in the bottom half. The fact that he lost that final to Tottenham was the last straw. The fact they kept him, doesn't make any sense, but it's madness. So Barbara Joseph says, Gav, just wanted to ask, your stuff, so knowledgeable about football. Did you play professionally? Yeah, big up to Barbara. So yeah, obviously I played for Chelsea and Tottenham in the academy. I was at Chelsea for 7 years, Tottenham for 3 years. Had some mad experiences playing against the likes of Wayne Rooney when I was 14, Sam Nasri as well. So yeah, listen, football's been my whole life, and I've consumed it, I've watched, I've played, I've coached. So yeah, listen, I've had loads of experience in football. So a lot of the stuff I say, is just through the experiences of that I've literally gone through. If you haven't been in an academy setup, I think a lot of people wouldn't understand what actually goes on behind closed doors in that sense. So, but yeah, no, listen, I've had good experiences, and as I said, yeah, I've played, I've watched, I've coached. So, yeah, but big up. So Omar says, do you think United will get that Anderson centre mid player? So Elliot Anderson's a good player. He is. Again, do I think United can get him? I think United and a few other teams will be in for him because he's a very good player. Again, the number one for me, I want Eduardo Camavinga. I've never hid the fact that I wanted Camavinga before he went to Real Madrid. Again, getting him out of Real Madrid is going to be difficult. So if that's the case, just go and get me Baleba. I think if United go and get Baleba, you know, then you can go and look at an Adam Wharton, an Elliot Anderson. I'll be fine with that. But Baleba needs to be gotten. He's the main one. I've been talking about Baleba for time. So he needs to be the main one that gets snapped up for me. Big up to Safina Stockwell. Luke Shaw's an absolute liability. He is, and it has been. To think that Luke Shaw's been here, what, for about 10, 11 years? And again, the fact that he survived that long is crazy. Absolutely crazy. Gav, do you believe making it from academy to first team can be down to luck? For example, injuries giving a young player a chance. I don't believe that as much. I think making it from the academy to the first team, again, you need to have, first and foremost, a first team manager that believes, like, let's say, for instance, you're a team that, let's say you're a technical player in the academy, yeah? If you've got a manager that is purely about technicians and you're in the academy and again, they're watching the games, you've got more of a chance, you know what I mean? A lot of it can be down to injuries, but you need to have a manager that believes in you first and foremost. If you look at Lamine Yamal, for example, he's a prime example, yeah? As we know with Barcelona, La Masia, yeah? The way that Barcelona play, you know, the majority of their players, if all of them, are all technical players. So when you're coming into the first team, you know, the philosophy of the club, you have to be technical. So La Masia is a prime example. Because if you look at all the players that have come through La Masia, you look at Yamal, Gavi, Fermin Lopez, Balde, Kabasi, all these players of recent times, even that Gerard Martin as well that's come through now at left back. All these players are all high technical players. So you need a philosophy in the first team that gives that pathway. As well as if you get injuries, it's about taking your chance. You know, I look at Man United right now and, you know, I can't really see any academy player not only thriving in this first team or being a success because not only do I think this system's flawed, you know, there's no kind of, again, look at Louis van Gaal. Louis van Gaal had the academy, you know, playing the same way as the first team. So that when you get an injury, you can just pluck someone out of the reserves out of the academy and put them straight into the first team, like a seamless transition. And that's what it's about, you know. Man United can't do that because the players are not enjoying playing in this system. You know, the manager's on the brink of getting a sack. So there's no pathway, you know. So if you compare that to likes of Barcelona, who are a stable club, and the philosophy is bringing through talents like a Yamal, Yamal was always going to succeed at Barcelona because he's a technical player, not to mention the way the first team play fits into his philosophy of how he plays. So that's a prime example. But a lot of it, you know, is a combination of having a manager, having an infrastructure that it's a seamless transition going from the academy to the first team. And obviously injuries does play its part because if you've got a first team player that's playing well and they get an injury, that could be your chance to obviously displace him. So yeah, a lot of them things do go into it. But big up to Lumi, man. Great question. Yeah, listen, Safina, he is a disease to the club. He's doing a bad job, man. He is, no doubt. Big up to King Chaos. Big up for coming through, man. Big up. Guys, come on, smash the like button and sub to the channel. For example, Nathaniel Klein wasn't even the best right back at Palace Academy, but due to injuries, he got a chance in the first team and never looked back. And again, Lumi, this is why he got his move to Liverpool. You know, but Nathaniel Klein was never a top player, but he got given a chance and took it. And that's what it's all about, you know. That is what it's all about. But big up. Mike says, do you think if we win the next 3 games, Amorim won't end up getting sacked? I think if you look at what Ineos have done so far, I think you'd have to say that, you know, because he should have been sacked last season. So you can only look at the fact that if he does win 3 games in a row, they're not going to sack him. For me, the way that I see it, this should never be the case. It's like, look at the bigger picture and just know this manager's not going to be the manager to take them back to the next level. The only thing I look at this manager that he's done well at is getting rid of the likes of Garnacho and Højlund, and obviously getting Rashford out on loan, etc. But other than that, I don't see any positive that he's done. No positive. Yeah, Ryan Bertrand made his debut in the Champions League final. Yeah, that's crazy. I think Ryan Bertrand was actually at Chelsea when I was actually just leaving Chelsea, funny enough, when he was in the youth. I think I was just leaving there when he was coming through. Gav, are you doing a match review after your game tomorrow? I am. So yeah, guys, I'll be live after the game tomorrow. So the game's at 5:30. So I'll be doing my match reaction after that game. So listen, if he doesn't win this game, he's under massive pressure. So yeah, make sure your notifications are on, because I'll definitely be going live tomorrow after that game, which is a must-win game for me. Also, are you doing any more fitness streams with Jay Avalanche? Really enjoyed that. Yeah, listen, we might get one going in the future. Obviously, he's a busy guy, like myself as well. So, yeah, listen, I'll be in touch with him when I can. And, yeah, if he wants to do another fitness session, 100%. So, yeah, listen, I'll let you guys know when that's going to happen again. But at this moment, there's nothing in the pipeline at the moment, but we'll definitely try and get one going on again. Big up to Jay. Big up Jay, man. Long time. Yeah, big up, man. Big up to Adamodi Eben as well. So Omar says the inability of the manager to do the right and play the captain in the right position and sub him at times baffles me. That's one main reason I think he isn't getting results. Big up to Omar. But Omar, what you need to realize, Omar, as well, yeah? And again, when I said this I was on Flores' channel the other day as well, yeah? You have to realize that Bruno Fernandes is not even a number 10. The amount of people that think Bruno's a number 10 is actually criminal. Bruno has never been a number 10. Bruno only played as a 10 because Solskjaer and Eric Ten Hag decided to play him in that position. You know, Bruno obviously is a central midfield he's a box-to-box midfielder in terms of being in the 4-3-3. But he's not a number 10. He never has been a number 10. I believe he used to be a right back as well. But from what I've seen through Bruno, he was never a number 10. And the fact that people think he's a number 10 is criminal, really, because he's never been a number 10. So when you're saying that the manager's playing him in the wrong position, the manager shouldn't be playing him in the first place, because he's shoehorning this player into the team. Because if you're a top manager, you would just play a midfielder, central midfielder in central midfield. Play a number 10 in 10. Bruno can play as a 10 in a different system. And in a 4-3-3 can play as a box-to-box midfielder. But in this system, he's not good as a 10 because he's not good in tight spaces. And again, as a left or right 10, you need to be able to, you know, isolate your fullback from the opposition and be able to go past them, which he can't do. In the tight spaces, you need to be good on the half turn, which he can't do. And in this midfield too, you know, he's ill-disciplined, you know, and gives the ball away carelessly. So he doesn't fit into this system. But the manager is shoehorning him into the team to the detriment of the team. So, yeah, it's criminal, man. But again, I've spoken about this plenty of times. I've spoken about it plenty of times, you know. But it is what it is with this manager. It is what it is, you know. Yeah, listen, Lumi. Tottenham does have one of the best defenses. They've got a very good manager that is going to make them defensively solid. You know, I mean, you look at Van der Ven with his recovery pace and Romero. That's a very good combination. And I think Romero being captain as well, I think that's going to take Romero's game on because he's now got responsibilities. You know, I think him and Van der Ven as a pairing is very good. You know, if you look at the fullbacks, you look at Jed Spence, Udogie, Pedro Porro. I think as a three, That's very good. You know, Jed Spence can play either side. Udoji's obviously left back and Poro's right back. You know, I think you get a bit of everything out of all three of them. You know, you got Pedro Porro is very good going forward, and his delivery is very good. You've got Udoji, who's a bit of both, and you've got Jed Spence, again, is very good defensively and attacking wise as well. So they've got a very good defense. You know, the midfield, them bringing in João Paulinho has been a very good signing because he's more or less the Pierre-Emile Højbjerg replacement, but probably a bit more, but probably a bit more mobile than Højbjerg. And then you look at Xavi Simons as well coming in, you know, as is a 10, can play from the left. Kudus is a great signing, you know. Kudus for me is one of the best players in the league. Then you got Lucas Bergvall, who's going to come into his own, who's a very good player. Papa Matassar has probably been one of the best midfielders in the league this season so far. Then you got Madison, who's out injured, Kulusevski, who are two of their best players in terms of creativity. You know, they've brought in Kola Mwani on loan, Solanke, who's out injured at the moment, Richarlison. I think between those three, they can get goals. Mattis Tell's been a flop so far, but, you know, who knows? I think Thomas Frank might get something out of him. Brennan Johnson chips in with goals, you know. So, yeah, they've got the nucleus of a very good team there. And I do think they're going to be a problem this season, you know. And under Thomas Frank, who knows, man? I think they should be targeting top 6 as a minimum, I think. Van der Ven better than Ruben Diaz? I think, you know what? I think he is. Yeah, I think he is. I think Ruben Diaz, when he first came to the league, you know, was proving that to be in the best centre-back in the league. I think he's definitely dropped off, you know. But the thing is, I like Van der Ven. I like Van der Ven. And Van der Ven's unique selling point is his pace. I mean, the guy's so quick. He's probably the quickest centre-back in world football. You know, I don't think there's a quicker centre-back than him. So, is he better than Ruben Diaz? You could probably say that. He is. You could probably say that. So, do you think Ruben will swallow his pride and switch to a back four and play Kobe Taylor's place? Hell no. No, listen. Ruben Amorim's not changed anything. He's come out and said that, you know. Amorim's going to die. He's going to die on his sword with this formation. And ultimately, this is what's going to get him the sack. Because, as I said to you guys earlier, you know, when you look at his team for Sporting, when they got the expected goals above 24, 25, it shows you that his system ain't really that great. Because you shouldn't be outperforming your XG by that much if your system was good. So, again, he's going to die on his sword in this formation. Which is his prerogative, really, you know. Spurs to be top 4 this season, thoughts? It's going to be very difficult for them to get top 4 for me. I think if we're saying Liverpool in no order, Liverpool, City, Chelsea, Arsenal, I think those teams there will be the top 4. And I think you've got Newcastle, Tottenham to figure into that. Again, it might sound crazy, but Man United in a different formation, 1 game a week, should be targeting that. Not under this manager, though. So, I think top 4 will be difficult, but under this manager, Thomas Frank, why not? Because they've got a very good team, and they've got a very good manager, but it's going to be difficult, definitely. So, Lumi says, I knew someone who used to play 5-a-side with Zaha. They said he was playing at just 10% as he had to be careful, but was still tearing it up. Yeah, listen, Wilfred Zaha is a very good player, man. Again, when he come to Man United, he come to United at the wrong time, really, under the wrong manager. You know, so, but he's a very talented player, man. But someone that didn't really fulfill his career as what was promised earlier on. But I do think he was good. What do you think of our hot academy prospects like Lacey and JJ? And do you think if Amorim was to stay that they'll be able to fully thrive through play different than Ruben? Yeah, listen, JJ Gabriel is a very talented player, and so is Shea Lacey. But they're not going to thrive in an Amorim team. They're not. They're not, because first and foremost, these two players are not known for their physicality. You know, these guys are technical players. So immediately, you know, they're not going to go in the first team because between Amorim and Ten Hag, they're two managers that look at more physicality than technique, and the evidence is there in the kind of players that they play or don't play. So Gabriel and Lacey have got a lot of promise, but they're only going to figure under a manager that wants to play front foot, technical, attacking football. But as long as Amorim's here, they're not getting any chances. That's a fact, you know. And again, I wouldn't want those two players coming into Man United with the state of teams at the moment. So yeah, I don't. They're not going to figure under Ruben Amorim. Van der Ven is the quickest centre back. Is pace wasted there? No, it's not wasted, man. It's actually a positive. It's actually a positive because he's got pace to burn, real pace to burn. You know. Yeah, he's got ridiculous pace. Yeah, I see that. Mbappe's got. I don't understand how Mbappe can have 97 pace and then Van der Ven has 90, because I guarantee if you put them two together, I don't think Mbappe won't get away from Van der Ven. So I don't really get that. Pete Gerety says, "Oh, bro, United suck. Enough said." I can't disagree, man. I can't disagree. JJ Gabriel will join the Engamoha and Dowman conversation. He could be generational. He could be, but he's not going to be getting any game time as it stands under Amorim. I think the only way JJ Gabriel, I think he's what, 14? I think he might be. He needs to change a manager because Amorim's not going to bring in a youngster like that into the first team when he's under pressure. That's not going to happen. So he needs to change a manager if that's to happen. Yeah, big up to Exedra. Big up, my guy. Hoping the manager is sacked soon, tired of losing games. But this is the thing, Exedra, man. We've become so numb to it now. It happens every week. And it's a problem. So as I said, he's got 3 games, man. He's got 3 games starting with the game tomorrow. And as I said, if he loses tomorrow, I believe he's got 1 game. Because I think if he doesn't beat Brentford, if he loses to Chelsea, I think it's game over for him. And rightfully so. Rightfully so. But guys, listen up. Big up yourselves for coming on each and every time. Much appreciated. Guys, we've only got 18 likes. If you haven't smashed that like button and you've enjoyed the content today, make sure you smash the like button. And again, make sure you you sub to the channel if you're new in here as well. So Jay said, did you see Roman Reigns casted as Akuma in the new Street Fighter? No way. So there's a new Street Fighter movie coming out. The last one I saw was the one with Van Damme in it. When you had what's his name? Yeah, Van Damme. I forgot that guy's name now. If there's a new Street Fighter movie, man, listen, he's gonna be Akuma. That's gonna be crazy. I'm gonna have to see the trailer for that. Exedra says, Gav, I can see us losing to Sunderland. Yeah, listen, the streets do remember Van Damme. Van Damme, man. I remember that street fight with Van Damme. Yeah, listen. Gav, I can see us losing to Sunderland. Bro, if he doesn't beat Chelsea and doesn't beat Brentford, I don't think he even gets that far. That's what I'm trying to tell you. This Chelsea game tomorrow, as I said in the title, is his penultimate game. Because if he doesn't lose that, he's under severe pressure. So I don't think he makes it that far if he doesn't beat Chelsea, because that Brentford game, he's going to be under ridiculous pressure. So can someone tell me how... So, oh, Jerry St. Juice from Sporting Lisbon has more pace than Van der Ven. Didn't even know that. Didn't even know that. But big up. But guys, listen, big up yourselves each and every time for coming through. Smash that like button, guys. We've got 19 likes. You know, if you haven't smashed the like button, make sure you do on your way out. Sub to the channel if you're new in here as well. And guys, I'm going to be back tomorrow after the game. So I'm going to do a match reaction to the Man United and Chelsea game, where it's going to be a must-win game for Manchester United. So, as I said, we will be there. And again, it's going to be a penultimate game for Ruben Amorim. And as I said, my prediction tomorrow is going to be 2-0. 2-0 Chelsea. Before we wrap up, guys, actually, let me go through the key players for tomorrow's game. So for Chelsea, for me, no surprises. I think there's going to be two key players, Moises Caicedo and Cole Palmer. I think if Moises Caicedo plays the way he has been playing and dominates that midfield, for me, that's going to be enough for Chelsea to win the game. And I think Cole Palmer could be the difference maker yet again. So I think Caicedo and Cole Palmer, for me, you know, they're going to be primed to be the two key players for Chelsea. For Man United, again, it's difficult. I mean, it's hard to say because this formation just doesn't get the best out of many players. But I think tomorrow, Matthias de Ligt's going to have to be key. You know, I think a lot's going to be asked of him in terms of his defensive work. I think going forwards, you know, you're going to have to look at probably Mbuemo again. Mbuemo, obviously, looking at the only one at the moment that is scoring goals or looking a threat. So I think for both teams, de Ligt and Brian Mbuemo for United. Again, do I think Xerxes is going to start? He should be, but I don't think he starts. Do I think Kobe should start? He should do, but I don't think he starts. Ahmad is touch and go. We don't know. So, yeah, I think de Ligt and Mbuemo are definitely going to play. So, they'll be the key players. And then, as I said, Cole Palmer and Caicedo for me, for Chelsea. So, yeah, listen, I'm going to say 2-0 Chelsea to win the game. But again, it's the penultimate game for Ruben Amorim. And we will be here. So, yeah, guys, make sure you come back through tomorrow at 5:30. As I said, big up to yourselves coming through each and every time. Smash the like button, sub to the channel. Big up to all the mods for coming through as well. And, yeah, I'll catch you guys in a bit. Take it easy.